It has. Okay. All right then. Yes, the nice lady confirms. Okay. All right. So, yeah. So this is whoops, getting ahead of myself. This is Google Analytics for mostly just the month of August, or I should say, most of the month of August. Yeah. So this is actually my favorite thing to look at and talk about. So on the left is the chart we showed last time we did a marketing analytics demo day. So and then on the right here we see the bigger graph, and this line indicates where the smaller graph, that's before that line is where the smaller graph shows, and then after the line is in the month of August. And so as we said last time, this first bump in traffic, which is here or over here, that was due to basically someone hooking up our sale to Uniswap and the resulting traffic. And then this pump seems to be due much more to the video we put out, which was the video interview with Igor from XDAI, and then that got seen by some Twitter influencers, and then that caused a big storm. Yeah, but what's cool about this is, so this is how much money is in our treasury, or actually how much has been raised in our treasury. Oops. And so this is just a really nice thing about Foundry as it is right now, because both of these spikes here correlated with essentially a pump and dump that occurred basically out of our control, where a large contingent of moon boys jumped in and tried to make a quick buck on our sale. There's some arbitrage between our bucket sale mechanism and then the Uniswap stuff. And we tried to pump the brakes on that as much as we could, but people still went crazy. But what's nice is that even when the hype wave recedes back into the hype ocean known as crypto, we still retain the money in DAI in our treasury. And since it's DAI, it's stable, so we are not exposed to volatility, and the money never leaves the treasury. So every time the hype wave comes and recedes, we actually gain money in the treasury. So this line will obviously never go down. Although this is total raised, a more complete graph might be the total amount in the treasury, because we've actually already spent 2,500 of this. So maybe next time we put together a graph, we can show how much we've taken out. But still, I mean, we're raising money already way faster than we're spending it. And with this much money, I think if we didn't increase our costs of operation, we'd have a year of runway. So that's really great news. Yeah, any thoughts you want to share or add to that, Skalk?
Yeah, so a couple of things I just want to say for the record. The one thing is we did not start the Uniswap market. Right. That was a community member. And then also both of these bumps were organic bumps, basically. So community members, people picked this up and then started talking about it, and obviously some of them have disproportionately more influence. Like the first bump was thanks to our good friend Scotty Botha. Thanks, Scotty. And then the second bump was, I believe, to a Twitter account known as Fonship, or Fonship is a joke, at Fonship. Thank you, Fonship. He picked up on the project, and he seemed pretty optimistic about it. I guess he would have to have been a mega whale to really kick the thing off completely on his own. But yeah, so anyways, I'm just saying neither one of these two were direct results of of stuff we're doing in the background. I mean, these are indirect results of us just following our marketing plan.
Yeah. Okay, let me just get through the presentation now, because I actually want to talk about this more. But let me get through the presentation, then I can switch back to the speaker view. So it's more of that. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so this is just a comparison of sort of some basic stats between July and August. So this bottom row here we've already seen from the last presentation. This top one is new. So you might want to mute your mic, Skalk, so your dog doesn't give us.
Doesn't moan in that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So more money raised, less individual contributions. That could be due to a few different things. More contributors and more unique visitors. The fact that there's less contributions, I mean, there's a number of reasons that could be. For one thing, it's the gas is way higher now. So you might be more reluctant to just kind of spread your transactions all over the place. You might want to make one transaction that counts. And another thing that would be contributing to that is that the buckets are larger. So if the next, let's say 5 buckets each have roughly $1,000 in them, and you're just going to put in 50 die and 1,000 die. So if there's 1,000 die in each of the next 5 buckets, and you just want to put in 50 die, there's not really much reason for you to spread that out, because you're not going to change the price of any one bucket too much. You might just reason, well, just for convenience and for the gas price, I'm just going to put my 50 die into the current bucket. And so as the bucket amount increases, people will care less about spreading their contributions over many buckets. So that would explain that. Anything else to say on this screen, Skulk? You're muted.
Yeah, we don't fully understand exactly why lots of this is happening. Part of what I noticed as well is, and again, just for the record, we have a very generous referral program. If you refer others to the sale, you can get back up to 20% of the die value that they purchased, just assigned to you in the next bucket. And I did notice, though, that a lot of the early contributors were not even activating that referral bonus for themselves. So that might it might explain some of it, that some of them are just purely buying on Uniswap and not worrying, and then only some of those are filtering through to the sale itself.
Yeah. Okay, alrighty. Let's see. Let's keep going here. So yeah, we have more unique visitors, an interesting spread of geographic locations. One thing to note that's, I think, a good sign is that South Africa has moved quite a bit down the list. So it was up, of course, when we first started, Skulk and I are both in South Africa. So all of our networks were in South Africa. This was the top source of visitors. And so as our, as our marketing reaches out, and as people, generate a bunch of hype about this stuff, it will spread out to the rest of the world. So this is just sort of the confirmation that that's happening. Yeah, and then this is
Logan, could you go back? I just want to point one or two things out there, maybe. Yeah. Sure. So the thing is that it is massively interesting to me to see how much interest in all things progressive still originate from the US. So just for the record, our sale is not open to US citizens. Unfortunately, we can't prevent US citizens from participating in secondary markets.
Right.
So even though the site visitors, the 550 are there, we'll actually see a little bit later on that they drop off when it comes to the actual sale page.
Yeah. So this is a similar stat, although in this previous page it's visitors, and in this page it's all the way through to conversions, which just in marketing speak means that they've actually signed the enter transaction. So they've actually gone through the whole process and actually put an order in. We don't have the revenue value in this data set. We should in the next data set. But yeah, so it looks like this is interesting. Most of the conversions have happened in South Africa, although I think that again, that makes sense, because when the sale first started, since this is the number of conversions and not the amount, even small numbers will count. And in the beginning of the sale, a lot of our local networks wanted to just put a few die into each bucket here and there, just to get, because no one else was bidding on the bucket, so it was free fry. So that makes sense to me. And also of note, there's no America in this total, because American citizens can't actually go through the sale. Of course, they might be going to the secondary market, which puts upward pressure on our sale, but yeah, can't. The U.S. citizens can't operate with our sale. Anything else to say here, Skulk?
I do find number 9 interesting. You don't know if that's your previous network that might be participating.
I don't think so. I used to, so I lived in Vietnam for a while, but I haven't really, I don't really reach out to friends really and talk about this stuff much. And I don't know a lot of Vietnamese contacts that know about my stuff. But, Vietnam itself is extremely, they have an almost American entrepreneurship spirit to them. And there's a lot of growth. So, so like, for example, when I was in Zimbabwe and I brought up Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, people only knew about it mostly through pyramid schemes. Whereas in Vietnam, there was some of that too, but people were much more interested in the potential of it and the technicals behind it. So I'm not surprised to see Vietnam on the list. And I don't think it has much to do with my previous network. Yeah. Okay, so this one.
Sorry, can I? Sorry, man.
Yeah.
I tried to make a point that I was muted. Sorry, so just 2 points on the South African thing. The one thing is, I do think South Africa has an abnormally high interest in crypto. I think largely because everyone, like a lot of I would say more in tune people really fear the government and what the government is doing, so they're trying to at least immigrate so long economically. And the second thing is, I think the reason why the contributions here are still so high in South Africa is because our initial network was largely based in South Africa.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them have now figured out that they can arbitrage between the sale and Uniswap, and make a tiny little profit. And I suspect that's why their contribution numbers are so high.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. So this here, we have July and August here. These are not necessarily trustable figures, though. We put this presentation together and then later realized there was a bug with at least step number 2, and that might be messing up a lot of the numbers. So I don't really think I want to go into any of that really in detail until we're sure that those numbers are more correct.
Yeah.
Here just shows that we actually accidentally cut off the headers of these columns. This first column is desktop, the second column is mobile, third column here is tablet. There's something weird with these numbers because it's 52% here and 52% here, and obviously that's more than 100%. So not sure what's going on there, but assuming that they're roughly correct, we still have about half of our traffic is mobile. And Skulk, you mentioned that you were getting a lot of, were these like people reaching out to you privately and asking if the sale is on mobile or?
Yeah, so I have at least 3 people. One of them was exceptionally adamant that we make it active for mobile, that we make the sale active for mobile. So I did find that quite surprising that there are people actually actively participating in DeFi who don't even own desktops. So so I think that is something we need to look into, is making the sale Trust Wallet friendly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and these are really just more internal comments. I don't think there's anything too interesting here for public consumption. Just more things we want to look into. Yeah, okay, I'm going to stop the share now.
You still wanted to go back to the first image and discuss that? The
first image?
Yeah, the graph.
Oh, yes, but I'm going to stop sharing and just get our faces up if we're just going to talk about it. And just the idea of the fact that it's like a hype capturing mechanism where if our project gets a lot of engagement and people go crazy about it and the price goes up and then falls back down, I think in most projects the going up would be exciting and then going down would be quite painful, because it's like, oh well, there goes all of the funding we were supposed to have with our pre-mine, essentially. And then if you hold your project, whatever raised funds, if you hold that in the ether, then you're still sort of subject to that hype. But because the way our sale mechanism lasts for a long time and it's held in DAI, we just continually capture whatever momentum gets thrown at us. And I say we, but ultimately, of course, the treasury is going to be under the control of Foundry governance, which I hope we can start building very soon. So yeah, if you're a FRI holder or you want to be a FRI holder, and you're in it for the long term, I would say the main statistic to look at here is actually not the token price. I mean, maybe it's relevant to you personally because you want to get in at a lower price, and obviously if you buy FRI, it's going to be important to you whether the price is above or below that and by how much. But in terms of Foundry success, I would say a figure to pay attention to is the treasury, treasury amount. Yeah, which currently is there's just over 40,000, because as I said, we raised 42,500 and we took out about 2,500. We'll be taking another similar size chunk, I think early next week. Basically just invoicing the Foundry Treasury to continue our work here and hopefully raise lots more money. Yeah, I'll link to the link that you can follow the Treasury on. That's what I watch a lot, just to sort of see how well we're doing.
I just want to say a few things on that. Some of that is by design. Some of it is a slightly happy accident. The part that I'd say is by design is that the reason we have a long sale is we actually get to show activity and show progress. And then people can find out about us, you know, and they can evaluate us, and they can say, well, these guys are full of crap, or, you know, they seem to be building something of worth. And unfortunately, there doesn't really seem to be a sort of really a way to guard people against their own, you know, guard them against their own irrational exuberance. But there does seem to be a way to benefit, you know, the token holders in general from you know, irrational exuberance. So, so the thing is, if there's a mega rally between now and when our sale ends, that's going to be exceptionally good for the project, because you know,
you mean a mega rally in the crypto scene in general?
Yeah. So if there's a the rising tide, right, you know, lifts all ship types type rally between now and the end of the sale, that's going to be enormously beneficial, because what's going to happen
well,
what's going to happen basically is that I'm getting a lot of background noise from someone, by the way.
Oh, it might be me. But you said it's going to be more what? I didn't hear.
It's going to be far more beneficial to the token holders in general, if there's a massive rally, than just the price rise in price specifically. Because what will happen is, during that price rise, obviously there will also be arbitrage against the sale, and there will be people trying to actually like buy discount fry on the sale. But the result is that more stable currency, more DAI, actually ends up in our treasury. And because that DAI ends up in our treasury, we actually we store that energy, right? It doesn't go away. We basically cash out as the market begins to heat up, and as the market begins to cool down, we don't lose that additional value. An additional interesting thing in this part is somewhat accidental, is that instead of starting a foundation, we decided, well, let's give our DAO its own tokens. Let's give it 10% of its end of sale tokens, basically, and have it manage it. The interesting thing about it is that there is a rally in Fry that does actually, you know, quite heavily increase the value of the treasury. And I did find that interesting as well. It's a less reliable source of income, but it could still be a very, very significant source of income for the Foundry.
Right. So just to illustrate that a little bit, if there's a big mega rally, then at the height of the rally, our treasury, the 10% of Fry that the treasury holds, will be worth the most. And of course, that value, the valuation of that 10% of Fry, will fall as the rally turns into a big crash, if it does. Or I should say when it does. But the DAI that we've gained through the whole climbing up of the slope and people buying into the sale, that will have remained. So yeah. And I'll also say, you know, as the treasury increases, Fry essentially represents partial ownership of the treasury. Of course, that won't be technically, logistically true until we actually complete governance, but that's what we're going to be working towards. So when there's very little price action and the buckets have calmed down to a lower price, you know, basically all of the money that was gained during the hype, when we were selling the same amount of Fry, but for way more DAI, when the hype dies down and the buckets now are offering Fry for cheaper, you can buy partial ownership of that treasury at a way lower price than the treasury actually got filled up on. So yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I also really like about it is that we have, I mean, I don't want to mention anyone by name, but we do have a few early contributors who basically gave us, I think it's significant amounts of money for their, for their net worths very early on. And what I really like about the model as well is because they actually believe in the model, they think we can deliver on it. And eventually it won't just be me and you. I think in the very near future it'll be the DAO itself. What's cool about this model as well is that they get a disproportionate amount of ownership because they had early belief in the system. And I'd say we are only really like 1/6 into the sale at the moment. Not even 1/6. I think we're just over 1/10 now into the sale. So it is still very, very early. I think it's still very early. I think there's a very good likelihood there will be a rally, in which case the treasury really contain a lot of the energy of that rally.
Cool. Yep. Yeah, I think it's an exciting dynamic we got here. I would say let's go to Q&A now and maybe wrap it up pretty quick, because for me you're coming through really patchy, so I don't know if the content creation is actually going to be much. I don't know if it's going to be much of a satisfying video to watch. Hanu, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions at the moment. I just think what Scott mentioned there towards the end about the value that some of the early contributors see in the project. I myself also got in quite early, but it's not just waiting on pump and dumps. That's a little bit irritating actually, watching all these guys popping in on the Telegram group just wanting to pump the thing. And a lot of those moon boys, as you mentioned earlier, they buy and then they try and find out what it's about. If we can maybe switch that around to kind of, well, it's not quite possible with Uniswap, but the idea is to get the guys to understand what the project is about and get their buy-in long term, because that's where the real value will be. At the moment, there's very few people that actually get that, I think.
I think the thing is basically that the project is likely set up such that even if they do buy in irrational exuberance fashion, the funds still get locked in a way that hopefully delivers real value down the line. So to a degree, there's that built-in guarantee. I'm not really decided yet, but me and Logan have been chatting about just updating the pinned post to something like "How to Not Get Fried," just so that it starts with, if you're here because you see a massive green candle on Uniswap, know the following, and then we can maybe just to a degree get the guys to take a longer term view on things.
Yeah. By the way, Hannah, is Scott coming through a little hard to understand?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Also, Scott, your camera was off for that one. I don't know if you intended that.
I didn't, because you told me I was coming through choppy.
Okay. Yeah. No, I don't know what it is exactly. It doesn't seem to be normal lag. It's something different. I think we should consider changing to Zoom for these, but we can talk about that later. It's cool to see the Telegram sort of blow up in usage. We have hundreds of people there, but I have a suspicion that most of, and maybe a depressingly large amount of the people that are there are really just there to participate in the price shenanigans, the crypto price shenanigans. But the upside is we are increasing the treasury, and we have a long runway now, so that's good. And we'll just keep doing what we do and work on what seems meaningful and wise, and go from there.
Okay, just a quick question in terms of the marketing stuff. I don't know if you guys touched on it last month with the previous marketing video. What's the steps going forward? Still just word of mouth marketing? What do you have in mind?
Well, the idea is that we. Can I take this one?
Sure.
Well, yeah. So the idea is that we have a certain cadence of valuable output that we think we can maintain per week, right?
In terms of generating content specifically.
In terms of generating content, and then which essentially at this stage is that's, and it might shift, but it's in my view 2 high quality articles about what Foundry really does, and 1 hopefully high quality video a week. We want to continue the series on interviewing people for scaling. I'm still looking for, if anybody listening to this knows about someone who's really clued up and who has built something with optimism, I'd really appreciate that. But I'll make some additional work next week of finding somebody who's used optimism to scale an Ethereum dApp. So the idea is just that we keep doing that. So the way that Google PageRank works is it's sort of like you sort of have 1% incremental gains. So every time you create content, it sort of like stacks on top of the previous content, and there is this compound interest effect that eventually takes place. So that's the main thing that we're doing there. We're specifically avoiding paid for marketing because it's really very hit and miss. With this last pump, we had at least, I think it was 3 different people, offering us paid for marketing deals of some sort. But you can sort of see by the way that the deals are structured, there's no downside for them, right? It's basically we give them, a dollar-denominated asset and a certain amount of it, and then and then we hope for the best. Whereas the thing we're doing now is definitely the longer, harder road, I think. But I think the cool thing is we don't lose our gains. Once we have people who actually like the project. Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, it's more organic. So that's some advice we got earlier on. Is the paid for marketing? Not only is it hit and miss, but it doesn't. The impression I have is it doesn't really stick and it doesn't really grow organically. And what we're doing here, generating content and getting a community, that's going to just be more organic and reliable. So yeah,
I think it shows authenticity as well, and I think that's I've been delving into some different articles and coins and reading some stuff, and I've noticed a lot of stuff. There's a coin and there's a website, and they talk about stuff that they are going to do. And the difference between Foundry and those guys is that, you guys already got 2 products. You've got a long-term vision. You've got the long-term sale, which slows it down. So it's not a quick thing, in and out. So yeah, I think there's definitely benefit to the way you are doing it.
Oh, thanks, Arno. That means a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, by the way, just on one more thing on the marketing. Now that you mentioned the website, we did have the whole website redone recently. It's not up yet.
Okay, it's not up yet. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not up yet. We did have the whole thing rebuilt. And I must say that also having looked at a lot of these little weird projects out there and these little moon pots, I really, really like the new website. I'm super excited to have it up.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Should have that up next week. Hopefully early next week. No promises, but next week looks good.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Cool.
Cool, guys. Have a nice day.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.